Hey guys, it's AJ back with another video. Hope you're doing good. In our previous video, we completed our inventory and we have got all sorts of functionality in our inventory like dragging and dropping items. We have a scroll bar. Then we even introduced stackable items in our inventory. And now it's finally time for us to move on to equipping the player with some of the items that we have in the inventory, like a sword or a shield. And for this, I have made a sword and a shield, and I'm gonna drop a link to that in the description down below. So make sure to go download those from my G Drive. We are gonna make the player hold a sword or a shield. Then we are gonna add some animations that can override the animation we already have on the player, so that we have a different animation when the player is holding a item. And without further ado, let's get to the video.
So first thing we are going to do is in the inventory slot script that we have already. And guys, if you haven't watched my previous videos, please make sure to go check that out, because we are just building up on what we have already. If you don't have an inventory, then you're not going to understand this part. So I'll put a link to the video which starts up the inventory. Well, we started off doing the inventory in the description below. Go check that out. Yeah, and watch this video. So first we are gonna add a field item in the inventory slot script, and let's just set it to null. And in the setup method, we are just gonna initialize this item by using the get item method we have here. And get item is gonna use the inventory and go to the get item from slot method, pass the index and get the item in that slot, and then update the item here. Now we are gonna make a new method here, public void use item, and we are gonna invoke this on button click when the player presses a certain slot inside his inventory which contains an item and tries to use that item. So here we are gonna just check if item is not equal to null, and if it is not null, we are gonna say item dot use, which is a method we will make in a bit, and then we are gonna remove the item from that slot. And again, remove item is a method we already have, and we need to pass in the number of items that we want to remove. So here let's just have a field number, but anyways, when we are gonna remove from the inventory, we are just gonna remove one, but just to be safe, I'm just gonna have a field number so that we can edit it from Unity. Now let's go to the item script and make a method use. And let's just print out something over here. Let's say using item and the display name of the item. So this dot display name. Now let's just go back to Unity, set the button up and try this out. Now in the inventory slot prefab, the inventory item child, I'm gonna add a button, and let's add an on-click event. Now let's drag this inventory slot and drop it in here. Let's add a function, inventory slot use item, and let's set the number that we are gonna give for removing the item as 1. Now let's hit play and try to pick one of the items up, and let's see if we are gonna get the message on the console. So I'm just gonna pick up a shield, and we got the message using item shield. So that's good. Now let's head back to Visual Studios and edit the rest of the code. Actually, before we hop into Visual Studios, I just want to tell you that in scripts folder, I created a folder called equipment, and I have created new C# scripts, equipment and equipment manager. So the equipment manager is going to be placed on each of the players. And this is just because in my case, I have multiple playable characters. So go check my video on doing character selection if you wanna. Otherwise, if you have just one player, you just gotta attach the equipment manager to that player and you'll be good. Now, in the equipment script, we are gonna inherit from item. So since item is a scriptable object, this automatically makes the equipment a scriptable object. So equipment is going to be a variant of the items. Like in our inventory, we can have items like coins or health potions, etc., which are just going to be in the inventory. We're not going to equip them. But equipment items are going to be different. They are going to be something like sword or shield, which we can attach to a player and make the player run around with them. Maybe give a different animation to the player while holding the equipment and things like that. So we don't need to again inherit from scriptable objects here because we already have item inheriting from the scriptable objects. But we can add a directory kind of when we are going to create the equipment inside the Unity. So create asset menu and we can just give it a menu name. Let's say inventory slash project 0 slash equipment. Now let's create an enum, and this is gonna be the different slots where we can put the item in. Like we can have a gauntlet on the hand, helmet for head, or pants or something, anything which can be attached to the player really. So let's just say enum equipment slot, and here I'm just gonna have head, legs, hands, chest. We wanna have an armor, and let's say feet, and we don't need a semicolon there, and we're good. So we don't need a start or an update for this. Let's clear that out, and let's make a public field of equipment slot. And call it equipment slot. Now we are going to go to item and we are going to add a keyword here, public virtual void use. And when we do this, we are going to, when we come to this use method, we are going to automatically go to the equipment which inherits from the item, and we can have a method over here with the same name, and that method can override what is in this method. So let's say public override void use. We don't need this actually, so actually let's just keep it there. Base dot use, and let's have another message over here. Debug dot log using item from equipment script. Now if we go back to Unity, we are gonna do the same thing we did. We're gonna pick up an item and then go to inventory and use the item, and then we are gonna get both these messages out using item and the item name plus the message we are gonna have in the equipment slot, that is using item equipment from equipment script. And that's how you kind of override a method. So let's check it out. Now back in Unity, let's delete the shield and the blade because they are scriptable objects of item, and we need scriptable objects of equipment. So let's make those. So create inventory project 0 equipment, and let's name it shield. Let's duplicate this once, and call this blade. Let's also change the display name to blade for this. Add a description. So I'm just gonna say increases attack. Attack power. The icon's gonna be the blade UI we have. It's not gonna be stackable. And the pickup is gonna be the pressure chest that we have. So, and the equipment slot, I'm just gonna give it as hands, but that doesn't really do anything right now. So, and let's do the same for shield. Now on the pickups, we are gonna need to add items to the shield and blade because we kind of deleted the shield and blade which were on the item earlier. Now if we pick one of these items up, go to inventory, we got a shield. So if we click the shield, it's getting removed from the inventory as expected. Then we are going to get two messages using item shield, which is from the item script, and using item from equipment script, which is from the equipment script, where we override the base method use. So far so good. Now in the equipment manager script, we are going to create a singleton. And the way this is done is we are just going to create a field which is of the same type as the class, and then assign the class to the field. And by doing this, we are gonna be able to access this class methods from other scripts globally. And since we are gonna make this field a static one, we are gonna be able to make changes from other classes or even across scenes on this script. So say public static equipment manager instance, and on awake we are just simply gonna set instance to this. Now we are gonna need a array to store the equipments that is on our player. So since we are putting the equipment manager script on the player, I think it kind of makes sense because we are gonna only need as many equipment slots on the player as there are equipment slots in the equipment slot enum. So let's make a field public equipment slot, sorry, equipment, and let's call this current equipment because it is gonna hold the equipment that the player currently has. And on start, actually on start we are gonna initialize, set the number of equipments that the player can hold, that is the length of this array. So we can actually get this using system dot enum dot get names, and we're going to need a type, so equipment slot. This is going to return a string array of all the equipment types that we have. So that's going to be head, legs, hands, chest, feet, and we are just going to take the length of this array and put it in num slots. Then we are going to use the num slot to set the length of the current equipment array we have. So current equipment equal to new equipment num slots. Now we are not going to be using update now, but I think we are going to be using it in the future, but I'm just going to delete it for now. And let's say we make a new update when we come to a point where we need it. So here we are going to create another method to equip the item. So I'm just going to call it equip. And here we are going to need a equipment to equip in the slot on the player. So we're going to take a parameter of type equipment and let's say new item to be equipped. So basically what we're going to do here in this equip method is, if we have a equipment already attached to the player on the slot, then we are going to replace it with a new equipment. Otherwise, we are just going to make the player equip the new item that we pass down to this method. So we are going to need a slot index where we need to equip this item slow. Let's call this slot index and set it to new item dot equipment slot, and we are going to need to cast it into an integer. Now let's say current equipment in the slot index is going to be now the new item. Now go to equipment, and since we have a singleton on the equipment manager, we can call it like this: equipment manager dot instance, and have access to the method without creating an object of the equipment manager. And this also helps in not having duplicate values. And let's just say we pass this equipment, and we don't need that line for debugging now. Let's go to Unity and see if this works out. Before we hit play on the player, the equipment manager, we got the size of 0. Once we hit play, you're going to see it is going to change to 5, because that's the length of the equipment slot that we have. And yeah, we got 5. Now if we pick this item up, go to inventory, it's a shield, and if we click on this item, you're going to see that the item appears here on element 2, because element 2 is the hand, and we set the scriptable object shield to be put in the slot hand. So yeah, so far everything is working fine, but this is kind of it for this video. And I'm gonna put a link for the shield and the sword, the game objects, which I made in Blender, in the description below. You can download it, and let's make the player actually equip this blade and sword in the next video. So stay tuned for that. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and go ahead and subscribe to my channel. That would be really helpful. Until next time, see you, bye.